Okay, guys. These are things you definitely want to know on the real estate contract, and they will absolutely make you a better agent. Just got to adjust my screen a little bit right there. Now, this contract, of course, it's the Oklahoma contract because I practice in Oklahoma. But these dates, you're going to find them on most of your contracts throughout the nation, and you need to know them. And what's really cool, if you know these dates, you're going to be better than 90% of the agents out there. Because I'm not talking bad about agents. I just feel that 90% of the agents haven't read the contract. I'm not talking bad about them. I'm just stating a statement that I feel that I observed. So if you read the contract, if you watch this video, if you make note of this stuff, if you send title emails, like opening up title emails with these dates pointed out on the title email, they're going to be a great guide, a great outline throughout your whole transaction. It'll make the seller's life easier, the buyer's life easier, the title company's life easier, the lender's life easier, your life easier. It'll make everybody's life easier if you just stay on top of these dates as the project manager, as the real estate agent. You stay on top of these dates, you're going to have a smooth closing. There's not going to be hiccups. There's not going to be questions. Well, let me take that back. There's no straight line in real estate. There will be hiccups. There will be questions. But if you stay on top of these dates, you're going to eliminate 90% of the problems that most agents have once they go under contract. So let's talk about them real quick. That's what today's video is all about. So the first one is get the earnest money turned in. Get the earnest money turned in. You have 3 days. According to the Oklahoma real estate contract, if your state has a different date, right there, then you got a different date. But get the earnest money turned in. That has to happen right away once you have a signed contract. And then after you have a signed contract, then you want to make sure that the title gets opened. Look at clause 10 in the real estate contract. Remember, if you're not in Oklahoma, if you're in a different state, read your state's title contract. Read your state's title contract. Look at this. Seller, at seller's expense within 30 days prior to closing, agrees to make available to the buyer an abstract or a uniform commercial code certificate search. I don't know what that is. The title company handles it. But within 30 days of closing in Oklahoma, check your own contracts on clause 10, the title clause contract. Once again, this isn't legal advice. I'm not an attorney. I'm not licensed to give you legal advice. We're two people talking about a real estate contract, and I have a real estate license. So I want to point this out to you so that you, the seller, the buyer, the agent, whoever's watching this video, the title company or the lender, has a better idea on what to expect during the contract. And it makes your life easier as an agent. This video is geared towards agents. But within 30 days of closing, that seller has to give to the buyer the abstract. So the buyer and the buyer's title company can do the title report. That's why that's there. So any of those agents saying, oh, we're not opening title yet, and it's within 30 days of closing, that agent who's not letting title get open is making their sellers breach the contract. Breach the contract. Well, agents never do that. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. They do that all the time. Let's not open up title yet because, we got to make sure the property appraises. Let's not open up title yet until we get through the inspection negotiations. If it's within 30 days of the contract and the seller's not giving that buyer the abstract, I'm not an attorney, seek legal advice, but that's breaching the contract. By the way I read it, the layperson, so pay attention to title. This is why you want to follow up on title. Yes, they have schedulers. Yes, they have people working on it. Yes, they have different departments making it happen. But guys, everybody's human. Everybody's human. Make sure that you're following the contract, especially when it comes to title. If you have to do a 2-week delay on title and that pushes your closing past the rate lock on the loan, and now that loan costs the customer another 0.25 points on the interest rate, how expensive could that be? If it's a $400,000 house, another 1/4 point. Let's get our little handy dandy calculator out here. What is a 1/4 point on 400K? If you have a 400K loan and we're talking a 1/4 point, that's another $1,000 a year. if I did those numbers right. 0, 0 quarter. Yeah. Yeah, that's another $1,000 a year. So if they stay in that home for 15 more years, because the title company had to push this back because someone didn't let the title get open on time and get the abstract to the buyer's title company on time so they could run the title report, and that person stays in that house 15 years on a $400K purchase, roughly $15,000 is what that delay just cost them. Not just the quarter point, not just however much extra it's going to cost them in a monthly payment. These dates are important, guys. These dates are really, really important. The next one that I wanted to chat with you about is all loan fees need to be checked off. That's on the finance addendum. Let me jump over to finance addendum real quick. So when you're looking at a finance addendum, within 5 days of contracting, if you guys see a finance addendum, tell me where it's at. Holler out loud if you see one of our financing addendums. Oh, they have their own category now. Okay, that makes sense. Now I like that actually. I like that a lot. Let's zoom in. Once you contract a house, look at this right here, bolded. The Real Estate Commission bolded it. That's how many people don't read it. That's so funny. That's an assumption. Come on, comment down below if you think I'm wrong or right on people not reading contracts. So within 5 days, the borrower will make application for the described loan and deem acceptable and proceed diligently to obtain such loan. And still talking within the 5 days, the buyer shall pay the initial loan fees, including the appraisal, credit report at the earliest time permitted by federal regulations, because they've got that 3-day good faith thing. That's why they had to put that in there. And if the feds changed the 3-day good faith thing to a 4-day good faith thing, they didn't put a specific date in there. They put permitted by federal regulations so that it can be fluid if the feds change their standards. Buyer shall instruct the lender to immediately begin the loan approval process. Buyer shall also instruct the lender to issue a written statement of conditional loan approval within blank days of the time reference date. Okay, so this part right here applies to the 5 days. That part right there. And then this sentence right here, because there's no periods until right there. Well, there's not even periods right there. There's a colon. That's a new sentence, guys. So that new sentence has its new timeline right there, okay? So pay attention to these timelines. And if you're constantly checking in on these timelines, look, I've got an Excel spreadsheet. Reach out to me. I'll put a link down below where you can fill out a form, and I'll give you my spreadsheet header or something. That way you can easily check each part of the contract process. And if you're looking at that every Monday and every Thursday, you're going to be on top of it. There's not going to be too many things that come up that are going to surprise you. But this is this is the third date that I wanted to pay attention with you on when you're doing your contracts. You got to keep the consumers updated. You got to keep the consumers in the know when it comes to these dates. I should have done this because I bet I'm going to come back to it. So let me do this. I'm going to open a new tab, and then we'll open this one back up in the main tab. Okay. Now, going back, I'm trying to do these in order. Okay. 3 days, the earnest money, 5 days, the loan acceptance. Oh, the other part of the loan acceptance, guys, if they don't find an acceptable loan, see this giant word here that's bolded? So they have two options here. Number one, option A, or number one, option B. If they can't find a loan that's good enough for them and they can't get the full approval process, then they cancel the contract. Cancel the contract, get the earnest money back. They have 5 days to do that. Now, if you're in a competitive situation as a buyer, as a real estate agent, you should already be coaching your buyers to already have the pre-approval process taken care of. You should not be showing houses without a pre-approval on your buyer. 1 second. But if in 5 days after they contract it, if the loan's not exactly what they were thinking, then they can still cancel the contract. So as a real estate agent, pay attention to that 5-day date. That's very, very important. Now let's go back to the 10-day date. This one's probably further on down the line, so we'll skip it. We'll come back to the other one. So we've talked about the loan fees and all that stuff. And then within the time reference date, this is very, very important. You got two things. You got about three things going on during time reference date. All the inspections are based off of the time reference date on clause 5. that sets the rest of the dates in the contract. So within blank days of contracting, it's 10 in Oklahoma. They've got to have all the inspections done. That includes insurance, guys. And the reason I say that includes insurance is look at right here. Failure to expiration of right to cancel. If you can't get insurance on the house and you didn't figure that out during the inspection time and you didn't help the consumer figure that out during the inspection time as a real estate agent, they can't cancel the contract based off insurance. It plainly says it right here. After the expiration times of the investigation, inspection, reviews, buyer's inability to obtain a loan based on unavailability of hazard insurance shall not relieve the buyer of the obligation to close the transaction. Well, they can't get roof insurance on that. Well, you should have figured that out during the inspection. How many times as an agent has another agent told you, well, they can't get insurance on it, that they're not going to be able to buy it? Oh, God, well, Clause 7 Delta 2 says because they can't get insurance on it, that doesn't relieve them of the obligation to close on the transaction if this is outside of the inspection period. What? How many times has someone been all like, what are you talking about? What are you talking? Yeah, 7 Clause 2 Delta. I mean, 7 Delta 2. 7 Delta 2 says you can't, the buyer is not able to get out of the contract if they can't get insurance on it. You have to coach your buyers as real estate agents. Our jobs when we're helping people with these giant transactions that we're making a whole bunch of money on, our jobs are to help people read the contract and then seek legal advice if they can't understand it. If you aren't able to help them understand it, and it's not your job to help them understand it, if they have questions on the contract, they've got to seek legal advice, but you tell them what they're signing. You're a real estate agent. You took a licensing exam to become a real estate agent. You're supposed to know what's on the contract. You're guiding people through the contract. That's why you get paid so much money. The more easier you make that process for people to buy houses and sell houses, the more referrals you're going to get, the more people are going to regard you as a professional, and the more business you're going to get. Okay. But if they all of a sudden, 10 days before closing, the insurance company says, we can't insure that roof, and the inspection period was done 10 days before, and you don't have documentation stating, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, please get with your insurance agent and make them guarantee you insurance on this house. Please do that. If you don't have documentation proving that, who's all the blame going to get pushed back on? Whose E&O insurance is going to get used? All right. And if some buyer's agent is trying to be a poo-poo head and say, well, if they can't get insurance, they're not going to close on it. Well, I'm not an attorney, Mr. Poo-poo head, real estate agent, but 7 Delta 2 says different. They signed a contract and they know because they're adults and they read the contract that regardless of getting insurance or not, they've still got to buy it because we are past the inspection time. We're past the inspection time. So that's number 4 that I wanted to chat with you about. Also, make sure all the inspections are done within that time period. And then when that time period is over, as a real estate agent, you send over the inspection reports and the TRR with whatever the buyer wants to do, or you send over the inspection reports and the cancellation if what the buyer found on the inspections are not satisfactory. You send that over instead, because 7 Charlie 2 right here says within 24 hours after expiration of time period, a time reference in clause 7 alpha, paragraph 7 alpha, which is right there, that 7 alpha, that they have the right to A, cancel and receive earnest money back, but that's after they deliver and care all copies of reports. All copies of reports. This paragraph right here, this paragraph is above these 2 paragraphs. This paragraph's conditions have to be satisfied with these conditions also. Also, it says it right there. Shall deliver and care seller's broker, if applicable, copy of reports obtained by the buyer, if any, pertaining to the buyer, and shall select one of the following. They either cancel or they turn in that TRR form. So use a real estate agent. You're coaching them through this. You're getting them through the process. Just get that done during the inspection period and get this TRR turned in or this cancellation turned in before that 24-hour period expires. Well, how do I know exactly what date it is? Well, the Real Estate Commission makes it real easy, guys. The day after the time reference date shall be counted as one. So if September 18th was written right here, if this said September 18th, that means September 19th is 1. September 18th, September 19th, 1. September 20th, 2. September 21st, 3. And so on. Just follow the words. Follow the words. Not legal advice. Not a licensed attorney. Okay? Just a real estate agent helping real estate agents and reminding them that, yes, eXp Realty is the most amazing brokerage in the world. Granted, you're not always going to get along with everyone at every single company you're ever at. But when it comes down to the brass tacks, eXp Realty is destroying the competition. It's one of the first real estate brokerages that gives the agents ownership in the company, guys. Ownership in the company. Stock if you want. You can have retirement. You can have revenue share. I was at other real estate brokerages, some of them for over 6 years, and all I did was pay giant caps. I only have a $16,000 cap here at eXp Realty, $16,000. And then if I do 20 transactions after I cap per year, they give me my $16,000 back in stock that is vested in 3 years. They essentially pay us to be there if you're a producing agent. And if you're not a producing agent, you could join a team. You could have an $8,000 cap if you want. You don't get the chance to do the Icon Agent program where I get my cap back in stock. But if you're only going to be doing enough transactions for about $8,000 worth of transactions to pay in your cap, then you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about it. So there's lots of different ways to be successful at eXp Realty, guys. So if you got questions about that, book a call. My contact information is down in the description below. But I do these videos to help real estate agents out because, guys, 90% of them that I talk to don't read. They just don't read. And I don't want you to be one of those 90%. So that's item number 5. Item number 5. Now, let's go back to clause 10, the title clause. And these clauses might be different in your state. Okay, whether you're watching this video in Washington, whether you're watching this video in Oregon, Illinois, California, wherever you're watching this video at, and you're like, man, I love Josh. That dude is cool. Hey, I think you're cool too. Thank you so much for watching the video and enjoying it. If you know someone who needs some help reading their contracts, send it to them, and then you can let me have some fun explaining the contracts to them. But verify your own state's contracts, of course. So after you get the, what is it called? The abstract. So right here. Seller's expense within 30 days prior to closing agrees to make available the abstract or the title insurance policy with a uniform certificate being updated thingy that title insurance companies do. I'm not a title insurance agent. That buyer then takes that abstract and gets it over to their title company. And the buyer in this Oklahoma real estate contract, the buyer has 10 days. 10 days to review the title report and find it acceptable. Now, here's the kicker. Look at this. They put this on another page. It really, really annoys me. No utility easements, no building use restrictions, no setbacks, no zoning regulations, no reserve several mineral rights, may be objections to marketable title. Everything that's already in the record, during the inspections, the buyers need to make sure they're okay with that. I was just working on a older century-old home, and my biggest hiccup was trying to figure out if there were any historical home regulations on the home. The city said no, but then they said I had to check with the state's historical society, and then I had to follow up with the state's historical society. It took me almost a week to get an answer from the city that I was trying to get an answer from, and then I got an answer in 2 days from the state entity that I was trying to get an answer from on if this house had any historical remodel requirements on it. Because if you're getting ready to remodel a 100-year-old home and you want to put vinyl windows in it and it's got wood windows and you have to stick with wood windows because it's already set in stone by deed restriction, by zoning restriction, by regulation, by anything, you need to know that as a buyer, because getting a brand new wood window may cost you $800, where a vinyl window may only cost you $500. So if you're replacing 20 windows, that's $6,000 difference. Let me make sure my math is right. $30 on $300 on 20, 300 times 20. Yeah, that's a $6,000 difference. It's good if you know that up front. As long as you know it up front and you're okay with it, that's great. If you don't know it up front and you find out later after closing, that's not going to be great. And as the real estate agent, they're going to be blaming you, saying, why didn't you tell me that I couldn't put vinyl windows in here? You knew I wanted to put vinyl windows in here. You knew that, regardless of what this contract says. Okay? Regardless of what it says. Where does it say it? It literally says that real estate agents are not responsible for providing inspections on the property. It's entirely up to the buyer to do that. Okay, a real estate right here. Even though you as a real estate agent have no duty to do that, and it even says it here on clause 6 in the Oklahoma real estate contract, a real estate licensee has no duty to a seller or a buyer to conduct an independent inspection of the property, has no duty to independently verify the accuracy and completeness of any statement made in the seller in the disclosure statement or any amendments to the disclaimer statement. Okay? They're still going to blame you guys. You got paid a lot of money, and they always think that you didn't do any work. You worked your butt off. If you did it right, if you stayed on top of the dates like I'm talking about in this video, if you're keeping everybody updated, you're putting everyone back on the threads when the title company only responds to you, or you're putting everyone back on the email threads when the lender only responds to you, you are working hard. You are making your money. You're making their process super simple. You're giving them the courage to make that large transaction. You're worth every single dollar you get paid, but you got to keep them informed. As long as you keep them informed, they might think you're over-informing them, but that's okay because they're going to be like, wow, we didn't have any questions, because Josh and his team kept us super updated throughout the whole transaction. This was amazing. I want them to say that about you guys too. That's why I make these videos, because I want them to say that about you guys too. And then also, if you decide that you're not happy at your current brokerage, you reach out to me so that we can start working together at eXp Realty. But I really want to make sure that I'm working with professionals in the field, so my job's easier, your job's easier, the buyers and the sellers are happier. Like, that's the number one reason I make these videos, to educate you as agents. And then the second reason is I want to work with you over at eXp Realty. So you got to reach out to me when you get unhappy at your current brokerage, or if it takes you 2 or 3 different brokerages, because that's happened to me before too. And then you're like, finally, I'm going to work with Josh. Guys, we're going to be talking on the phone once a week. We're going to be talking on the phone once a month. It's going to be fun. We're going to be doing this in all sorts of different states. I love real estate. It's so awesome. You can be successful at it. It's made my family and I a lot of money, and I want it to be able to make you a lot of money too. Even if you do it part-time, you can make more money in real estate part-time than most people make it their full-time job all year long. You really can, if you just do your work every week. And part of that work is knowing the contracts. So you watching this video is making you know the contracts and become a better real estate agent. So I was talking about the inspections. I was talking about the title report. So going over to clause 10 in Oklahoma, the title report, you need to make sure that title evidence is acceptable. 90% of the time, the title companies don't send you the documents that are located on the exemption portion of the title report. The exemption portion is so important when it comes to the title report, because that's not what's being insured. That's not what's being insured. That's usually all these items on clause 2. If you have someone get ready to buy 160 acres and they want to put a mobile home park on it, you've got to cross out clause 2. You've got to one line it out. What if one of the prior sellers of that 160 acres put a no mobile home deed restriction on there? What if that happened? You'd have to file quiet title to clear it. I don't know. I'm not an attorney, so don't take my word for it. Or you got to go find all the descendants of that person that put that deed restriction on there and get all the descendants to sign off on it. I don't know how you would get over that. I don't know. But I know some great attorneys that I could get you in contact with that probably do. But right here, guys, if they're going to do anything that's not already being done with the property, or if they're getting ready to do a major remodel and it's a historic home, or it's an older home that might be a historic home, you need to cross out line 2 and figure out what regulations, what zoning, what anything is on that property and not agree to clause 2. Because if any of those things are on that property and that messes up what the buyer wanted to do with the property, as a real estate agent, they're going to blame you because they're like, I told you I was going to do it. I told you I wanted to open up a dog puppy mill on the property in the city. Like, no, you didn't. Yes, I did. I told you 500 times I loved my schnauzers and I have 20 schnauzers. Well, I didn't know that meant you had a dog puppy mill. Like, isn't that illegal? That's what I wanted to do. You can't do that. Well, that's what I wanted to do, and I told you. I'm going to sue you. You never told me that. I got to talk to an attorney. These are the conversations I have on a daily basis. I love them. But yeah, if they're going to do anything with the property that isn't just your normal live in the property, raise a family in the property, enjoy the property, have cookouts with the neighbors and stuff like that, cross out clause 2. And if there's a clause 2 on your state contract that's similar to that, cross it out and then verify as much as you can during, that's right, the inspection time. During the inspection time, figure all that out. Figure it out. If you can't figure it out, extend the inspections or get the seller to send you something in writing, or the buyer, get the buyer to send you something in writing where, I don't care. Either way, I don't care. I don't need that anymore. Understood. We'll move on to the next one. And so we went over the title report, and not being all that long little session right there was the title commitment has to be given to the buyer within 10 days of closing for them to verify they're accepting the title report. The title evidence is accepting, and that there's not any buyer objections to the title report that they need fixed. If there's an objection, that's not something that's utility easement, a building use restriction of record, building lines, setback, zoning, reserve several mineral rights, anything like that that stops marketable title, then they can object it and see what happens. They can object that and see what happens, okay? Does that make sense on that one? And then, guys, right here, super important. We kind of touched base on it earlier. The closing, the funding, and possession. Closing, funding, and possession date. You better be on top of that date. This is why you check in on all your files, all your escrows every Monday and Thursday to stay on top of that date. If that lender locked that rate and that rate lock was only good for 3 days after closing, you got to extend this a week and interest rates rise to a quarter point or a half a point. Remember how we talked about that could cost the buyer potential $15,000 down the line? You've got to stay on top of this closing, funding, and possession date. You're not being overbearing. You're not bugging people. It's your job to make sure this goes smoothly for your customer, whether that's the seller or whether that's the buyer. This video works good for the seller too. You can learn some stuff about reading contracts even for sellers. Everyone should be reading the contract. It's a legal document, but pay attention to that. I set up a 10-day reminder, a 4-day reminder, a 1-day reminder, and a 90-minute reminder on all my closing, funding, and possession dates. And then another tip and trick that I use is I use Google Calendar, and every one of these dates in this contract are set as reminders. As part of my setting a file pending, I put every one of these dates as reminders in my Google Calendar, and I make sure that the buyer that I'm helping or the seller that I'm helping also has these dates as a invitee in my Google Calendar. They're invitees in the Google Calendar to make sure they're getting the reminders too. And all the agents that I work with, all my showing agents, all my, go to inspection type, learning how to do the business agents, all those agents that are involved in that transaction, they're all listed on that Google Calendar as reminders so that everybody's on the same page. So Mondays when I'm talking to people, I can look at my calendar and say, hey, this is what's happening this week. Are you covering it? Hey, this is what's happening this week. Do you have that? Hey, do we have an answer from the insurance agent for that buyer yet? It's not our duty to do that. It's the buyer's duty to do that. But as project managers, as real estate agents, we help the buyer follow up on stuff because we're getting fat paychecks at closing. That's why we got in the business. Okay. So we can make more in one closing a month. We can make more than most people make all month long working 40 hours a week. A listing takes you about 20 hours. So it's not that glamorous. A listing is going to take you about 20 hours. Working a buyer is going to take you about 40 hours. So to make money in real estate, working a buyer or being a buyer's agent, you got to do at least 2 buyer deals a month to make twice as much as you would at a 9 to 5 out in the real world. As a listing agent, You only got to do one deal a month to make twice as much as you would in a 9 to 5 out in the real world, if those numbers make sense. But those are super, super important dates that every single real estate agent should pay attention to. Bust out your state's contract, read it, write down these dates. I'll put some sort of outline of the dates down in the description below so you guys can use that as a guide. But yeah, that's it, man. Josh Barnett, eXp Realty. Yes, I'm a sponsor at eXp Realty. I help other agents, broker owners like I used to be, team leaders like I am, move their businesses over to eXp Realty so they can leverage the broker team, so they can leverage the transaction team, so they can leverage the mentorship team. If you're like, I'm a broker and I never want to train agents again, don't worry. We got a mentorship program. We can handle that for you. If you're a broker and you're like, I'm so tired of paperwork, don't worry. The transaction department takes care of that. You can be a team leader. You could be a goal setter. You could be a motivator. You could take your brokerage, put it at EXP, and let EXP do all that stuff that you don't necessarily enjoy. And you can focus on sales. You can focus on encouragement. You can focus on mentoring, coaching, etc., etc. That's what real brokerages should be doing, making sure their team's successful. Let EXP lift all the other stuff like accounting, transaction management, marketing, training, all that stuff. You can go to the training too with them if you want. Josh Barnett, eXp Realty. If you enjoyed this video, share it with anyone else who needs help on real estate contracts. Oh, I'm getting a call. I got to take this call, guys, and I'll see you on the next video. Hey, look, a really cool end screen. Isn't that so neat? Guys, you can subscribe right now or click on that top video or that bottom playlist. Whatever you do, don't worry. You've got this. Let's go. Reach out with any questions. Thanks so much for watching.